can start already, though. So thank you so much for all of you joining us today. We are here today to learn more about tech sales and how women are slowly but surely entering an industry that was originally always male dominated. And we want to show you how beneficial and rewarding a career in tech sales can be, especially if you are a woman, and how we at HighRise can support you on this journey. And today we will hear directly from Martina, who has been working in tech sales for a long time, how and why she chose this career path. She is a true expert in the industry and can give you valuable input and advice. So first of all, I will give you a quick overview on what we do at HighRise and how we can help you find your dream job. We will have a look at what tech sales really is and how you can see for yourself if it fits your strengths. And afterwards, I will hand over to Martina and we will have a look at her background and career progressions, as well as her insights on tech sales. Please feel free to ask questions at any time, but we will also reserve a little bit of time at the end to make sure everyone gets to ask their questions. So I am sure we are all here today because you are interested in tech sales, hopefully. And IT and IT services is globally the biggest industry with the most employees according to LinkedIn. And this does not only include jobs like IT experts, where you need a lot of experience, but there are many positions in the tech industry that do not require any experience in this area. Most of them actually are in sales. So currently there are more than 16,000 open positions in the German-speaking market, but only 4,500 people are specialized to do these positions. The important factor that you can see here is that by 2030, the open positions will grow to 9.2 million, which means that now is the perfect timing to start your tech sales career. But why are there still not enough people interested in tech sales or even considering tech sales as a career opportunity? First of all, there are still a few blockers, like, for example, the negative image that sales is still connected with. There is no real education to enter a sales career, and additionally, there is limited access to these jobs. The current sales population is therefore very small, but we also see a huge potential for a lot of other people that might have not thought about tech sales before. And therefore, we will have a look later on which qualities or characteristics can be beneficial and might make you the perfect fit for a position in tech sales. But first, a quick overview on HighRise and our mission. Our mission is to find people that want to start a career in tech sales, educate them on the industry, and then help them land their dream job by preparing them to nail the upcoming interviews. We have created a program to give you all the structure and information beforehand. Maybe you already know this because you have already applied, or hopefully you will apply soon. And we are looking for people that want to change their careers and get out of their maybe boring jobs without any perspectives. People that are motivated and ambitious to learn something new. And we have also prepared a crash course that will give you more knowledge on the industry. And together we will create your HighRise profile and prepare you for the upcoming interviews. We will make sure that you can soon land your first position in tech sales. And once you have signed a contract with your future company, you will in most cases receive the HighRise onboarding in addition to the onboarding of the company. Therefore, we can make sure that you are best prepared and keep learning while starting your new job. Now, a short introduction to tech sales, if you have not heard about it already. Tech sales means selling technical products like hardware, software, or other services. There are two areas, one being B2C sales, where you are selling to private customers like you and me, and B2B sales, where your customer is actually always a company. In tech sales, you are mostly working in the B2B area, in detail a SaaS environment, which means software as a service. So basically, this means that you are selling software to other companies. Here we can see the old image of sales, which is mostly associated with a very negative perception, like being super pushy and trying mean tricks to make sure your customer falls for you. This image has changed a lot during the last years, and we are still working on educating the people to see sales for what it really is, offering solutions. The entire focus in sales has shifted to helping customers solve their problems by providing valuable software solutions to help them make their lives easier. These processes are foreseeable and can therefore also be learned by anyone. Now let's have a look which positions actually there are in tech sales. Of course, it always starts with marketing to find potential customers and leads, and also creating awareness of the brand. And then starting with the sales position, it usually starts with the SDR or BDR position. That means sales development or business development representative. This is usually the first position you will enter when starting your tech sales career. And later you can get promoted to an account executive. Next, you will have the position of an account manager. And there are also other positions like a customer success manager who is responsible for supporting existing customers, like also the customer service. Now you may ask, what does the position of an SDR actually entail? There are certain sales activities that you can easily learn. It starts with researching leads, acquiring leads, qualifying leads, and you can do this by using cold calls, emails, social selling, discovery calls, but it also includes demo presentations and in the end, closing the deal. Now, which qualities do you need to start in tech sales? Of course, you don't have to identify with every single one of these qualities, as long as you feel like 3 or 4 of these qualities are matching with you. This is important in order to make sure that you can also enjoy and have fun in your future job. For example, it is super important for you to be curious about entering a new industry, getting to know new products, and one important quality should also be your empathy. So this means that you need to enjoy working with other people. Coachability, for example, is also one of the main characteristics that recruiters are looking for in candidates. And this goes hand in hand with your willingness to learn, making mistakes, and learning from them. Other qualities are, of course, self-motivation, communication, IQ, and resilience. Now, a short sum up. Why would you want to work starting in tech sales? First of all, it's a super fulfilling job. You are helping people solve their problems, and additionally, you are learning new valuable skills every day. Second, the pay is really good. So especially for career changes, you can expect a base salary between 35 and 40,000 in the first year, plus commission, which usually comes on top, and depending on your performance, of course. Of course, this will also increase the longer you have been in the industry. And as already discussed, the demand is huge. And once you have entered the industry, it is quite easy to find a new position and therefore also achieve higher payments, as long, of course, as you are good in what you are doing. The most important part is that you do not need any formal requirements. The companies are looking for young and dynamic people who have fun working in tech sales. And actually, the right mindset is what companies are really looking for. So this was a quick insight into what we do at Highrise, and I hope that I was able to make you curious. And if yes, then feel free to directly apply at highrise.com. We are working with more than 100 companies across Germany, and hopefully we will find your dream job together as soon as possible. The best part is that for you, all of it is completely free of charge. But I can imagine that a lot of you joined us today to hear directly from Martina how working in tech sales really looks like. So thank you so much, Martina, for taking the time today and giving your insights on the industry. You are truly an expert, and we are looking forward to finding out more about you and how you got to the point of your career where you are right now.
Cool. Thank you for inviting me, and it's nice to be here and nice to empower young women to work in tech sales.
Perfect. I'm gonna start or stop my screen sharing so we can just enjoy the conversation between the two of us. So I know that you currently are working as a strategic account executive at Salesforce. But before we get into the details here, as I already explained, there are no real university programs that prepare you for a career in tech sales. So maybe you can give us a little insight on your background. So what did you study, learn, and how and when did you have your first contact with sales?
Sure, would love to. So my background is actually a bit different from other backgrounds. So this is not my first time speaking in front of like younger people. I did this for younger school graduates and other stuff to like improve or make them curious about the job. I did not finish school, so I went out of school in the 11th class and directly then moved to, like when I was 16, I always thought like I want to be an event manager and want to plan parties and do all the stuff, and thought like it should be like really cool. So I went to an agency who's doing that. And worked there for 1 year. And after 1 year only working in the night, I came to a point where I said like, oh my God, no, I need to change the job. It's really exhausting. I worked the whole night and I was sleeping the whole day and didn't see my friends. So at that point I said like, okay, I need a new job, and I need it now because I was moving out from my parents' house. And so I applied as a receptionist at Adobe. So I was, before I went to Adobe as a salesperson, I was actually working at the reception from Adobe. And when I started working there, I always said like to our general manager and all the people like, hey, I don't want to only do like the stuff that is coming from post office and organizing meeting. Give me other things that I can do. Let me organize the events, let me do this, let me do that. So I was really engaging with them, and I always was, and because you said I was always curious, I wanted to learn something new and like expand my skills. And I think it was, I was working there for a half year, and then our general manager came to me and asked me like, hey, did you ever consider sales? And I was like, I have no clue what this actually is. So I was 21 and I had absolutely no clue what is sales and what does a salesperson do. And then they said like, hey, do you want to shadow like our SDRs, our BDRs was that with Adobe? And I said, sure, yeah, I want to see what are they doing and how does the job work? I had the opportunity to actually see it in real life. So I think we did it for 2 weeks that I spent my lunch break with the BDRs, SDRs, and I spent like I was sitting 1 hour next to them and watching them, how they do their cold calls, how they did like how they did their daily work and stuff like that. And then after 2 weeks, they came to me like, do you want to do that job? And I was like, yeah, I want to do it. I really, really wanted to do it. I wanted to do it because of the people, because of the freedom that it gave to me, and because of like learning new things and new experience. So I was actually not employed with Adobe directly because they did it over a third-party vendor. So therefore the company at that time, they bought me from the other vendor and moved me directly into the Adobe network. And that was when I was like 21 or 22. So that was where I started my career in tech sales as a BDR.
So really by accident, not having anything planned, and it led to a really great career.
Yeah, actually, I never planned to be a salesperson when I was 15 or 16. I mean, most of the people didn't know what this is till they came, like they have any kind of touch point with this job. And as you said, there is no education for it. And even the people that have an education or a degree next to me or in that I'm working with, they did not an education on sales, because this is actually not like it's not there. You cannot like do it. And there are a lot of people even in Salesforce who are not directly from a sales history. Like they are industry experts, or they worked with a customer of us and then they moved to Salesforce. So it's more or less a little bit about the points that you mentioned at the beginning. Like, do you have these skills? Do you have this setup? Like, are you curious? Do you want to work there? No. That brings you into a sales position.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. So when you started your first real sales position, you just said that you already had the time to kind of shadow the current employees a little bit. But when you really started, what or how did your typical day look like? And was it then still different from what you expected, or did you already have a great overview on the job beforehand?
Well, to be honest, it's like over 10 years ago, so I don't know all the details. But when I started, how does my day look like? Because I have no clue about sales and I had no clue about technology. So what I first did, because you're gonna be thrown into these meetings, and when you never heard things like forecast and pipeline and all these words before, you're sitting like in the meeting like, oh my God, what is this? What are the people talking about? So I grabbed one of my old vocabulary books that I had from my English class, and I just wrote down all the sentences and all the words that I didn't knew, that I was like, okay, I have no clue what they are talking about. What is this actually? So I wrote down every word, and every time when I got back to my desk, I was Googling it, and I was asking the people around me and like, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean for me? What do I need to like consider about it? And that was actually like the beginning, like really asking a lot of questions, an annoying amount of questions to understand what the people are doing and how actually the solutions are working. Because this is something that for me is a key point as a seller, is that you know how the solutions and how the stuff is actually working that you are selling. So that was the beginning. I really did a lot of search in terms of what am I selling here? How do customers benefit from it? What do they get out of the solution and things like that. And then actually my day was more like, okay, I went into the office, I had my account list, I knew, okay, which accounts am I working on it? And it depends a little bit on the personality that you are. So in some companies, they give you like pre-bid like sentence and stuff that you can like go through the calls and ask the customer and things like that. I was not a big fan of that, to be honest, because I think it was not really authentic and intuitive when I was at calls and when I was calling with customers. So what I did was I prepared a question sheet. So I had different solutions that I was selling, and I wrote down all the questions that I had, and I wrote them down on one paper, laminate the paper, and I always had the paper next to me. So when I was in calls, even when the person was not like responding or anything, I just asked like a stupid question out of this paper, because nobody will remember if this question was related to the question before, but you will still engage with your counterpart and you will get informations. And even if that call was not the perfect call, but all the stuff that you get from them, you can use for another call. So I was actually asking questions till the point where the person was saying like, okay, I need to go to another meeting now.
Great. But it really shows that you've always been curious and trying out new things. And I think that is one of the most important aspects, that also in the beginning, not to be intimidated by keywords or I don't know, vocabularies that you don't know, but just going with the flow, making sure to ask questions and figuring out as you go. I think that's probably one of the most important factors that you should be aware before starting, that there will be a lot of terms that you have not known or come across before, but I think it's just a matter of days or weeks until you know everything by heart. Know exactly.
You probably don't know. I don't know everything till now. So there are always things that you came up in IT and are like, okay, what is this exactly? And what does this mean? But it is something that I also teach like the younger salesperson, even in like customer conversations. It's not a shame to say, I don't know. I'm going to take it with me and I'm coming back to you. I mean, you should probably know at least the most 80% of the questions and the things that the customers are asking you. But if you don't know one or two things, nobody will blame you, and it's more, you will look more authentic and more stable if you just say, I don't know, and I'm gonna take it with me, instead of like saying or trying to find an answer and you're struggling and the person on the other side realize that you actually do not know what you're talking about and try to like make up something. Sometimes it works, but not every time.
That's true. Super great advice. Perfect. So if you look back at your beginnings at Adobe, in retrospect, what were your most valuable learning experiences in the beginning?
My most valuable learning experience in the beginning was actually, there have been events where I felt super uncomfortable. I was a BDR and I was supporting Switzerland and Austria, and there was never a BDR before for Switzerland and Austria and Adobe. So I was more or less like the test person, if this is going to work out. And they had a really great manager who was the general manager of Switzerland and Austria, and who always like, I was always a part, even if I was a BDR, I was always a part of his team. So he always included me very well. And I was asked my opinion and stuff like that. But usually as a BDR, you don't do customer meetings. So this is the next steps when you go to an account manager, but in the BDR role, you mostly do like the cold calls, the pre-work, work with your AE together, maybe like go into a meeting with them, but you're not doing your own meetings. And I remember the AE from Hilti was out on PTO, and my general manager at that time said, like, I was there for 1.5 years, and he said, like, just do the meeting by your own. Do it. Just do it. I think you're gonna make it. And I was like, was briefing heavily, never had done a meeting before, never had done a demo before, nothing. I thought like, okay, I'm innerly dying, but I'm gonna try it. And that was actually, I was really freaking out, but it was something where I most learned about that. Yeah, it went good, and that this fear that you have sometimes in speaking in front or doing things that you don't feel comfortable. This is exactly like if you see a ladder, these are the steps up where you learn. It was the same with my role as an account executive. I was used to speak in front of like 20 people or things like that. And 3 years before, our manager asked me if I want to speak on an event with 2,000 people. And I was mainly dying. And I said, like, can I change it? And he was like, no, actually it was an ask, but it's actually something that you have to do. You cannot skip. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And it went out really, really good. And since then I'm doing like speaker courses, trainings, speaking in public. And every time when I had the feeling before a sudden event that I was freaking out, that I was afraid of it, that I didn't know if it's really gonna work out, were the moments that I learned the most.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. I think to some extent you always have to jump into the cold water and try to figure it out by yourself, and then the events coming after, it's just easy peasy.
Yeah. It's always the first time that is like, shaking, and then it's like, I did it good. Let's do another one.
Perfect. So I saw that you got quite a few promotions from Adobe, and you worked yourself up to being actually an enterprise account manager, which is super impressive. But would you say that this was normal in the company, so that they had some kind of career path mapped out for you from the beginning on, or was it just mainly because of your performance?
So I would differentiate it a little bit to the time now. So in Salesforce and working here, I know that the BDRs have a progress way. So there are key points that they have to fulfill, and then they get promoted to AE and stuff like that. So there is a way where you start as a BDR, and that is your way forward to come to an AE position. When I was a BDR, that was like 10 years ago, there were actually no way. So that wasn't like framed in the company or anything. And there was a position which was called inside sales, but these people were mainly doing like they were doing reservations for hotels and stuff like that. They were like an assistant for the salespeople. And that was a point where I said like, okay, the next step should be an inside sales. But I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be an assistant. I want to like do my sales stuff. So I more or less wrote my own job description, and I was talking with our management and saying like, okay, these are the things that I want to do. These are the things that I don't want to do. I'm not going to do like the reservation stuff. I'm not going to prepare your travels. I'm going to like have my own customers. I'm fine working with an advanced AE. But I want to do the AE stuff. I want to do the sales stuff. I want to stand in front of a customer. So that was more or less in the part where they created an associate account executive, like a junior executive. And the first year was working together with AEs who were more advanced. And then I moved into the role of an account executive in enterprise.
Really cool. Like probably also because of your performance and always asking to get more tasks and not settling for less. And
yeah,
that's the kind of mindset that you always also need to have, to keep asking for more as long as you, of course, perform well. Would you say that being a woman had advantages or rather disadvantages when asking for these new promotions or new jobs?
So I think it generally, you cannot say like has advantages or has disadvantages. Most of the company are very strict with their diversity and treating everybody equal and stuff like that. It has more or less actually something to do that we women do not do as good as men do. And this is your network. Like network is something that is like really, really, really important. And this is something that I still can't do too much. So I'm not going to go out and say like, this is my deal. I did this deal and it was fantastic. And look at me. So we tend to not do that. Instead of most of my male colleagues really do that. Like they say, look what I did. Like I did this, look at this. And this is something that is not an advantage that the company is proceeding, but this is something that more or less we as a female are often not doing as well as our male colleagues are doing it, networking with the people. Like I started after Corona, when the offices really opened. We had a lot of people, and I found myself like sitting in my floor and saying like, oh my God, I don't know these people. I have no clue who they are. And okay, now you don't know anybody, so you're not going to go to everybody and say like, hi, who you are. So I decided to bring cake every Thursday. So I brought cake and spent a half hour in the cafeteria and was talking to everybody. Like food is connecting people. And so I started to meet everybody and to say hi, know what they are doing, know what positions they have, maybe if we have like something in common and stuff like that. And that is something where I would embrace our female colleagues to like do more of the connections, engage more with your colleagues, build your network. That's so important. Building your network, being aware. Yeah.
That is really valuable input. Thank you. So you've been with Adobe for a long time. What made you decide to go to Salesforce after so many years working for them? Were you approached by Salesforce or did you make the first step?
I was approached. That is the network talk. So I had a former colleague who was working in Salesforce, but with another business department. And she was going to my former manager, who was my manager when I started here. And she was telling him like all the time, hey, she's good. Talk to her, talk to her, talk to her. And I think they were pushing me for over a year. And at one point, I said like, okay, let's do a call. I'm here for 7 years. I mean, 7 years is in tech industry. It's like a long, 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 long time. 7 years is also a good time to change. I mean, then sometimes at one point, like the conversations are repeating and stuff is repeating. And I said like, okay, let's do the chat. And I was approached by him and we met for a breakfast and I was super impressed from him and directly said, okay, cool. I can learn a lot of stuff from you and I would work here. That was actually how it went.
Really cool. Would you say that probably this is also one of the things where women struggle most with, that they don't like to change their jobs as often as men do? So I would figure that men are quicker to just jump from one job to another, whereas women are, as you said, not as good or like looking forward to networking and therefore just not having as much options in changing jobs.
To be honest, so I often attended our panels, like when we were interviewing people, and every time when I saw at a VC that people are changing their job every year, I was more or less saying like, that's not the trust point, because even like when you start as a BDR or on a SDR or whatever development progress you have, I felt comfortable after a year plus to really like be super settled, talk the story and things like that. And when I see that people are changing every year from there to there to there, I kind of always got the feeling that there was not enough grit, like stay there, go through like also maybe hard ways, because if you're working in sales, there will always be a time where you're really annoyed because the customer is not doing what you want, your progress is not going forward, no. And if the people have not the grit to go through this process, I was more or less saying like, that was not really trustful for me. But I would not say that women more pretend to stay longer in positions, because I have a lot of colleagues who changed and who did a great progress. So no, actually not. I mean, it depends really on your personality, because I have a colleague who is a male person who's staying in his job for over 10 years and he's like super happy. It is like his dream job. And he said, I want to do this and I'm happy every day to do it and I don't need to change. It's more, what is your personality type? How do you feel? Do you want to like embrace the ladder, or what makes you happy?
Perfect. Thank you so much for these insights. Now let's talk a bit more about tech sales in general. What does tech sales mean to you, either like personally or also professionally?
So tech sales for me means actually every time when I'm like telling my mom what am I doing, and I'm saying like sales, yeah, you're gonna sell like Hoovers or stuff like that. And I'm, no, not really like that. It's more complex. Tech sales is something that embrace my brain with every new customers, because every customer has a different setup. You have different people. You have that was one point on your presentation, empathy and transfer knowledge are for me the two more main points that you have to have as a salesperson, because when you're approaching a customer, and that is something that I also tell my BDRs all the time, I don't want to see these general messages from you like, hey, do you want to talk about Marketing Cloud? Just think about how the people on the other side is feeling about this. They get these messages like probably 10 a day. So if I would get a message like that, I would directly delete it. Be creative. Think about what could concern them. Like when I was a BDR, I with my big bets, my big customers, I Googled every morning, are there new news? Like, what's a press release? Did they do something new? Did they change something in the company? And I remember once we had a really big press article about Rewe. And then I took this article and I sent the person who was called in the article, hey, I saw this and I saw what you were talking about. And I would like to relay on this and talk with you because we have a solution for that and that. And out of this, there was a meeting out of that because it was relevant for them. So what I like about tech is you can be really creative. I'm like a really creative person, and I like to think a little bit around the corner, and you have like all the freedom to do crazy stuff. So I remember that we once did a campaign with Adobe, and we sent our customers a Playmobil car, and we redid, we took the wheels away, and we said, like, if you want to have the wheels, call us. And that was like a campaign that was more or less like a funny thing that you can do with your customers. So tech is like really being empathic, creative, trying to understand, trying always to like move into the shoes of your counterpart, your company with what you're talking to. And it's really interesting. Like I was, when I started, I always thought like I have to be smarter as the boys in technical stuff. And so I learned a lot of technical details about the solutions that I had, because I knew that I was young and I was a girl and there were not so many girls inside the sales universe. So I said like, okay, I have to be smarter as them. And I learned a lot of technical stuff, and I love to demo my own demos and products and really know what they are doing. And what was the advantage out of that? If you now took me in front of a customer, I do not struggle because I know how the system is working, and we can have a conversation in terms of details and stuff like that without always looking to the side and saying like, I need somebody technical to support me. And that is really cool because yeah, for curious people, it always like gives your mind some homework to do, something to learn. There are always new solutions that come up onto the market, so it's never get boring.
Perfect. You just talked about what you like most about working in tech sales, or also your current role. Is there any downside to the job, or is it just super nice for you always?
So, definitely there are also downsides. So what you need to have is you need to be resilient. So you need to be really at a point where you say you are happy with yourself, you know what you're doing, trust yourself, because there will always be times where the customer's not signing the contract. Even if you did like everything right, they just say like, no, we're not going to do it. And then the pressure gets high, and you get the pressure from your management and saying like, where are your numbers? What do you do? Why didn't you get like the contract signed? Like, yeah, because he's in the hospital. Then drive to the hospital. I'm like, no. So the pressure is high, but the pressure's getting better over the last 3 years. So it really, with Corona, it really also changed in terms of there are uncertainties, and the companies know that there are uncertainties, and you cannot always predict everything. Yeah, that's more or less the point that I don't like. And there are really a point that is good and bad on both sides. So there are times where you have a lot of stress. Like if you are in front of a really big deal and it's closing time, then you would probably work a lot of hours. But this is always like, it's always peaks. So there come the peak where you're shortly before a closing, and then you work more. And then there are low times where you can relax, breathe, maybe do like go to, you don't have to, that is something that I like about tech. I can own my own calendar. So if I have an appointment at the doctor, I can do it, and I can go to this. And it's really good to combine with my private life.
Perfect. Probably also relates to the question that we just got, how you are handling the pressure to hit your target every month. I think this is basically what you're saying, that there are times where pressure is high, but then you also got to enjoy the times where recharge in the not so stressful months.
Yeah, and to be honest, a lot How do I handle it with my coworkers as well? Like I have fantastic coworkers, and if the stress is going high or stuff like that, they all know it. They have been in this situation as you have been, and then at some point you just say with somebody, "Oh, can you go out with me and drink a beer?" And they are all like, "Yes, let's go out and drink a beer," and then tomorrow it's fine again. Because there are ups and downs all the time. And that is something where I say, like, you have to be resilient and you have to be aware that this is coming. Like a high is coming and a low is coming, and then the high is coming again because it's going up and down. And that's fine. And that is something where you should not like struggle with yourself, but be confident and say, like, if I always said, like, if I can look into the mirror at the evening and say I did my best, then I'm fine with it.
Nice, definitely, totally agree. What would you say? I mean, we've talked about it already a bit, but what are the main qualities or skills that one should bring to be successful in tech sales? Maybe also in times like these that we have right now.
Transfer knowledge, like you can know your platform, and that is like your main construct. If you're building a house, knowing your platform is the main base that you need to know. But to really be a good AE, you need to transfer it. You need to listen, like empathy and transfer knowledge. You need to listen to your customer, need to understand what they are, like what are the underlying issues that they have, what do they say, what do they mean, and then transfer your knowledge part into a language from them. Because nobody, if you're going as an AE to them and saying like, "Oh, I know you want to have marketing cloud," and you're just talking in your language, they will mostly like, they will feel this time where you said like the old sales part where you just go in and say like, buy it. No, think about what they need and how in their languages, and transfer your product to their needs and their key points. So often when people are doing C-level presentations, like when they're presenting in front of a CFO or anything like that, they often go into these meetings with the perception that they should look good. Actually, it's not about you. It's about the CFO. So he should look good. You should find his problem and solve his problem. And if you like maybe fall over your mouth or struggle or you're nervous, it's totally unnecessary or unimportant, because the main focus should be he is the main person, not you. And that is like a little bit of transferring how you're doing or how you're interacting. And I think like transfer knowledge and empathy are the two parts that are most important.
Thank you. We just got another question in the chat. How is your success measured?
Sure. So my success is measured in ACV, like sales that I'm doing. So I have a quota that I need to hit. And this quota is also broken down in a few parts. So I have a quota for licenses that I'm selling, but I also have a quota, for example, for services and stuff like that. So that is the one part. But as everybody knows, nobody can always have 100%. Like you will always, I did a good job the last years. Last year was not that good, but nobody can always have 100%. So there are also other measurements that you are doing from like soft skills. For example, I'm very long like doing marketing cloud sales. So I'm educating younger salesperson, and that is seen from the company. Or I'm doing sessions, like I'm speaking on live events and other things. So, and these are all measurements that even when you're not getting like the $1 million sales in this year, if you are engaging with your company, they also see this, see you as a valuable resource because you're a knowledge transferer to other people that are coming.
Definitely. I think this is probably one of the most important aspect for companies as well, to acknowledge what employees are doing besides hitting their targets, because otherwise you probably have a lot of frustrated employees in a very short amount of time. So definitely acknowledging soft skills, or just seeing that they are working hard and trying their best, asking for feedback and stuff like that is probably what is also coming in companies, that as long as they know that you're trying your best, and if economic downturns or whatever is just like getting in your way, this is not a reason for you to having a bad performance.
Yeah.
Another question that we just got in for me: cold calling is the most difficult part. How do you find the courage to hit them?
To be honest, I always thought like, hey, this is a person on the phone. What can be the worst thing that they do? Like I once had a call and I was supporting Switzerland, and there you speak like 3 languages. So I was talking to a person, and I was talking with her in English, and I knew that she was based like around Lausanne. And then the phone stopped, and I just recalled, and I thought like, hey, maybe, I don't know, the connection was interrupted or anything else. And when I recalled exactly the same number with exactly the same voice, the person on the phone says like, I'm only in French. Oh, parlez-vous français? And I'm like, what? I just talked with you like 6 minutes in English. Why are you now not only like talking French? Like, what the hell? And at the end that I hung up, like, what should I do? I mean, that's no, they don't come over your table and say you did this wrong. You're just calling them. Like, be prepared, have your questions, be nice, always be nice, because in tech sales, I always love, like, because you see everybody again. It's quite small, so don't be like too pushy and things like that. But at the end, I always said to myself, like, they cannot hurt me. Like,
yeah. And I think what you also said, like having a script or at least some questions for emergency situations prepared, so that even if you for some reason are completely blacking out and not knowing what to say, you can have like 1 or 2 follow-up questions, or just some questions to like collect yourself again. And then
absolutely, like this paper that I had was and then after I did it, all the others did it as well. Like they also did their questions and things like that. So what you usually do, like, you calling somebody. So I was calling somebody, I was looking at the website and I was browsing there and was like asking questions like, oh, what did you do there? And what do you do with your email marketing? And I see you have a commerce shop. How do you connect it? And at one point you're just asking questions. And if the conversation like stucks a little bit, you just take out your paper and ask another question. And the question should be like, they should be not no and yes question. It should be open questions, so that the person like is continually talking. But this absolutely helps. I was not a fan of these scripts, because I thought like, I mean, if you have one little change in the script, then it's not going to work out for you. I was more the fan of these interactive talking sessions, having these prepared papers, and also maybe write down your closing question, because at one point you have to close the deal and say like, or the call, and say like, okay, this is now, do we want to have a follow-up? Should I arrange something and stuff like that? And if you have this, I had the questions at a paper, and I had my closing questions in front of me, like over my laptop, and I saw them all the time. And that's how I like build my environment around me. And one point that I would also highlight is, don't do this stuff like call somebody and then write an email and then call and then write an email, because the brain needs to get into a flow. And every time when you stop and you write this email, you interrupt this talking flow. So I was taking my numbers, and I was like on the phone for at least an hour, doing one call after the other, because then you move into these flow and these to a talking flow. And then after that, I did my emails, I did my follow-ups and all the things to like not interrupt my brain.
Great advice. Thank you. Another question: have you already done relationship management? And also asking if this is included in high-rise. As far as I know, especially if you receive the high-rise onboarding, you're working with sales trainers, and you also have like some free way on how you want to, like what you want to learn, and then you can just talk with the sales trainers whatever topics are important for you. So definitely something, if this is something that you're struggling with or wanting to learn more about, our sales trainers can always help you there. Martina, did you have some experience doing relationship management?
What do you actually mean with relationship management?
Valeria, can you maybe give more insights here? What I would understand is maybe also building rapport, like making sure that your customer knows you, trusts you, and making sure that you are not just a random person calling you. But maybe we can have some more clarification here.
Relationship comes with trust, and trust is something that you have to earn from your customers. So that was what I said, like empathy is such a high point. If you really give them the feeling that you know what they are talking about and that you understand them, you get to a relation with them. I also always try to be myself. That was a point that I got a lot of feedback from the people that I'm really authentic. Like sometimes I'm loud, sometimes I'm laughing, but I don't hide it. And I especially do not hide it because I want to be myself. I want to be authentic. I want to give them a warm feeling that they feel comfortable with talking with me. And that's how I built my relations. And of course, I used also my extended team. If they knew somebody, I asked them to like introduce me to them, and like get in touch with the people. See.
She basically relationship manager. So
that is actually something that I do. Like I am the relationship manager. I'm owning all the relationships, and I'm like, if I need help from others, I'm going to my general manager and stuff like that. But as a salesperson, you are the one who owns the relationship with the customer.
Yeah, and for High-Rise, we mainly focus on the SDR and BDR positions. So they're maintaining relationships is not really a big part of it, but this is usually called a customer success manager. We do occasionally have companies that are also looking for customer success managers. So definitely something that goes hand in hand a little bit with those tech sales positions. Another question, do you want to stay an account executive, or is there another position for you, for example, in the manager level? Would you like to do that?
Yes, I would like to go to management. Why did I am? Because I really love my job. I did a break last year for 2 months. And at this break, I really realized like, oh, I'm bored. I would be like super bad in being unemployed because I was really bored after 2 months. And that's where I said, like, I really, really like to be an AE. Sure, I want to be a leader, a manager, but I also have a little bit of other ideas in terms of coaching and supporting sales structures and things like that. That is also in my planning for the next, let's say, 3 to 4 years.
But we can definitely say that once you're an account executive, there are so many directions you can go. There is not really a point in your career where you feel like you're stuck and there's nothing else that you can do now that you've reached the highest level. There's always something new to explore.
There is. I actually also had so I worked with one of a company at Adobe, and when I changed to Salesforce, the main contact person from this company was approaching me and was asking me if I want to be their CRM lead, like going into the industry. And he said like, hey, you absolutely know all the like nitty-pitties from tech industry, etc. We want to enroll our CRM strategy in the whole company. Do you want to be the manager of that? At the end, I didn't agree on it because I had to move to Frankfurt, and I'm a Bavarian girl and I will never move out of the mountains. But there was an opportunity like to move directly to a customer that I was working with as an AE.
Because you just have so many relationships to super important people probably as well. Another question is, did you ever get ghosted by an important prospect? If so, how did you handle that?
Yep, absolutely. First of all, I think I was going home and drinking a wine. And then I was talking with my peers or my manager in terms of checking, like, is there a connection with him? And to be honest, a really direct approach mostly helps. Like, you have to be, I did it once or twice, to be honest. I was, but I had to like ask or talk with my manager if he was fine, if we do that. And I was really sending a mail to the customer and saying like, okay, I get the feeling that you don't want to like move forward. So I'm closing this deal in our internal process. And then they came back and say like, no, we just need another time round. And often when the people are getting nervous internally, you have to, and this is, again, think about the other side. Maybe they just do not like ghost you in terms of being mad or things like that, but they just need probably time to discuss things or align internally or find budget, or I don't know, there can be a million parts that that hold down your customers from like saying hi now. That doesn't mean that the deal is done or the deal is away or you didn't win. I mean, that could happen as well. And that sometimes you win, sometimes another person wins. And that it's gonna go to happen. But often we also always say in my management, okay, calm down, breathe, and let's see, give them a bit space. A lot of things get solved by time.
Definitely. And like you said, the breakup message is something that we are also teaching. It sometimes works wonders once you put someone in front of the, hey, we are going to close this deal now. You won't be contacted by us anymore. And then suddenly they're like, oh, well, actually, I might do have a need. So let's talk again. So as you said, not losing the nerves and trying one more time. And other than that, not getting too frustrated about it, probably.
Yeah.
In your current company, how many women are actually working in the sales department?
Actually 50-50, or I didn't count, but we are not as much, let's say 60-40. We're not as much women as men, but we are a few. What you see is in management, there is a gap a little bit in terms of there are not so many female sales manager as male manager.
Mm-hmm. And what advice would you give to other women who are interested in pursuing a career in tech sales? How can they best prepare themselves for success in this industry?
I would say ask yourself the questions about, can you handle the stress? Like, can you calm down when somebody is ghosting you, or are you gonna freak out? Because this is really important to your own health, to be healthy, to be productive. Give yourself breaks. The brain is not meant to work more than 3 hours a day, really focused, and then he needs a break. And you should take these breaks to be productive. And always be yourself. Like if you're trying to fit into something, you're not authentic, and the people will smell it. It's like you're not really who you are, and there is a feeling, I mean, all the people in sales are people that like try to see behind the person. So if you try to like trick them or things like that, it won't help. You just be yourself, be curious, be empathic, but also take care of yourself, because this is a really important part to be long-term successful. Not like you can do like work 24 hours a day, but then you just do it for 1 year and then it's over.
Great, thank you. How would you see the role of women in tech sales evolving over the next few years, and what opportunities might be available for those who choose it?
So what I see is that a lot of requests are coming in terms of female seller, because they often like have a bit more empathy and a bit more thinking about or moving there to see what is the person on the other side considering. Why is this more and more important over the last years? Because also in tech sales, like there are tons of materials online, like every solutions that you see, no matter if it's like Microsoft, Adobe, Salesforce, you can watch demos online, you can actually more or less, people could go to a website and buy like their business stuff. But what is going to be more involving is the part of complex projects with companies. And therefore, you need to really listen to your customer, really understand what their concerns is. So if you're just going there and say like, oh, this is box XY and you're going to sell it, this is like 1980 sales where the people went through with boxes and giving the boxes away and saying like, buy this. But our structure is more and more going into a project lead, a project manager with deep technology knowledge and stuff like that. And also this behavior of moving into the shoes of somebody else. And I see that there is a lot of approach in like getting women in these positions because they have these abilities, like a little bit more than, not to everybody, but a lot of our male colleagues, like, to understand, listen, and try to comfort their customers.
Thank you so much for sharing. With an eye on the time, does anyone else have any other questions to Martina that you would like to ask her right here, right now? Let's just give it some time. One we have, what were your most important milestones or successes looking back?
I think we had this question. It was once the approach that I did in terms of when I was a BDR doing my first customer demo, because I was really super excited. And that was a milestone for me. And that was a milestone in terms of learning, but also for my reputation. I mean, the manager at that time went to the other saying like, look, Martina did this, no matter. The other was on PTO. She did it while he was on PTO. So this was a really huge milestone. Of course, big deals, not only big deals, but I also had like, I had a travel customer who was doing something totally new in the industry. And it was not my biggest deal, but it was so advanced and so new. Like they did their business for their offline travel agencies. And it was really cool. And that was something where a lot of people knew me for that, because they said like, we were brainstorming on a whiteboard with the customer how we can like flow data from one point to the other, what we need to consider and stuff like that. And you, even if it's not the biggest deal, you can make yourself like a name with like really exceptional stuff or new stuff that you did. And I think the third part was one customer where I was at a meeting. And we went out of the meeting and we had like another colleague was with me and he said like, this is never gonna happen. No. And I think at the end, and I was like, oh no, I think they're cool. I'm gonna do that. And they were like, at the end, it was a $1 million deal. And they were also like super surprised. And to have like these, experiences really cool.
Nice. I think that's probably also an important factor, that you might have low lows, but you also have really high highs in tech sales. So once you achieve something, you can be super, super proud of yourself for achieving that. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. I hope you had some great learnings today, and maybe you are really considering tech sales for your future career. Thank you so much, Martina, for taking the time and providing valuable information. And for all of you, please feel free to reach out to us, probably to you as well, Martina, on LinkedIn. If you have any other questions, we are happy to answer all of them. But so far, I wish you all a lovely Wednesday evening. And thank you again, Martina, for taking the time.
Thank you.
Bye.